Hello
Hello.
everyone. Sorry we're
Jinx.
a little bit late today, but we're really happy to see you. Welcome to the live show.
Better
Welcome,
late than
Cameron.
never, right, Marta?
Sorry, I'm
Uh,
having a little trouble hearing you.
oh, no, it's all good. It's all good.
There we
So,
go.
thanks everybody for tuning in. Like Marta said, sorry we're a few minutes late on our start, but we're doing some new exciting things with SRT. And, we often find that this playground, our live show, is kind of a fun spot to test out new technology. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it takes us a little bit longer to figure it out. But looks like we're good to go. And Marta,
For
what are
sure.
we talking about today?
So today we are going to be talking about uh, what we've learned doing live streaming. We've been at home for about 6 months now, and we still wanted to produce live video. We're coming to you live every Thursday. Every Wednesday, we're doing webinars for you guys, and there's a lot that we learned, right? We had to figure out how to do at home setups. We've had a few ups, we've had a few downs, and what we've done is we've asked all the people who you guys are seeing every week, our on screen talent, as well as the producers behind the scenes, about the things that we've learned over these 6 months producing live video from home. And we wanted to share that expertise with you and we're going to have fun doing because we have a few fun things planned for you today.
Expertise.
Expertise. How to go live on time. Lesson one.
We kind of broke one of our own rules today, which we'll get into the rule itself later, and maybe you folks can guess which one we broke when we were getting ready for today's stream. But Marta, obviously I had to take a moment and reflect when I was filling out the survey that you sent about what we had learned and what we were doing and kind of what recommendations we had. So it was a really good way to kind of look in on what's been happening, because it has been a rush. The last 5 or 6 months, however long it's been, it feels like it's gone by very quickly. And trying to look back and see what we've learned from that. Some things we have applied and we've learned and grown from, and other things we're still trying to figure out solutions for.
That's right. Cameron, I'm going to ask you to do just one thing, and that's turn off automatic volume adjustment. So that way I
Oh.
think I'll be able to hear you better. I figured it out.
Now, sorry, automatically adjust microphone volume as I'm blowing Marta's ears off. Now,
Yeah.
you might be wondering, oh, but Cameron, your audio isn't fluctuating on the stream, but we use Zoom as our back channel. So on Zoom, in the newest release of Zoom, which I actually just loaded up earlier today, there is an automatic adjust microphone volume. I got it sorted out on my desktop computer at home, but I didn't do the same thing on my laptop here. So I do apologize, Marta.
Thank you so much. Now I can hear you perfectly.
Now that you've
All
lost
right.
that level of decibel in your ear for the rest of your life, I'm sorry.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. Chat at us in chat. We love to read your messages, answer your questions. But for now, why don't we jump into the episode, Cameron?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing we're going to be talking about are our biggest challenges. Now,
That's right.
we have a few things that we've learned, and when Marta sent out the survey to the folks at Epiphan that have been a part of these live productions, she was asking, what is the hardest thing about producing live video from home? So, Marta, would you like me to take the first one? I can defer to you.
Sure, go ahead. So having the right equipment, what is all that about, Cameron?
Well, having the right equipment, obviously, that's step one in trying to actually produce content from home, and it is kind of like the first step, but it's also the hardest step, depending on what you have access to and what your budgets are and stuff. But you need to have the basics. You need to have a camera, microphone. But as we were learning, and we actually had some very colorful feedback, if you want to look back at one of our live shows in the comments section previously, we have to consider what's in the background as well. So maybe the home office that you set up at home in the corner of your bedroom, showing the corner of your bed and the door going into the bedroom may not be the best spot for it. And that's something that you have to consider on top of all this other stuff when you're producing content from home. Now,
That's right. And there was also a situation where people had very different equipment. So someone
mhm.
would have like a high-end microphone, Rode mic. Someone would have, just me as the best example, just your earbuds, and the sound is going to be very different on video. So we had to make sure that that was kind of leveled out. In some cases, we had to order equipment for employees just to make sure that everyone looks and sounds similar.
Totally, and that's we have solved that for a couple of our contributors. It's something that we're still striving to improve. But if you've watched any of our webinar content or even our live show content, if you've seen Dave on the show, Dave is an audiophile, and he actually drags his studio mic up from his home studio that he has when he's making music at home. So he's using a really nice microphone versus one of our other hosts. I won't call him out. It's one of the Georges, not the one with the beard. I don't want to be too specific. He
Sorry.
he found a great deal on a mic on Amazon, and it was delivered right away. But it sometimes gives us some challenges, and it's again something that we're working out. But we didn't think, obviously like anyone, we didn't think this was going to last as long as it had. And obviously investing in the right kind of gear is paramount.
Very important. This next point, Cameron already touched on. So carving out a video studio space for your video studio, and also notifying your housemates. So sometimes, we all have a lot of people in one space right now, and sometimes it was very challenging to let your housemates know that, hey, I'm doing this live thing. Please don't come in. We all know that famous clip with the politician whose kid ran in through the door, which is why I always give the advice of not having the door in frame, having the door somewhere off to the side. That way, if someone does come in, you have a little bit more control over that. And as you mentioned, Cameron, maybe having your bed behind you with the door isn't ideal. So playing around with that space and finding that space in your house is quite challenging. For me, for example, I basically have only one room to work with. So I constantly have to set it up and then tear it down. Right now, my room is basically just filled with objects for the studio. So that's a huge challenge.
And it is. And if you don't have the advantage of living in a house maybe with multiple rooms, maybe you've got a developed basement that you're not using and some additional space, that can become a little bit tricky. My housemates, as Marta calls it, are under the age of 7, and there's 4 of them, and they don't really think about opening up a door to ask me a question, and that's been a little bit of a learning curve for our house specifically. But generally, if you have a space in the home, you could communicate. If I'm in this room, don't go in. You can, if you have the means for it, you could get a task light or a busy light that you could put up. There's some cool tools for that as well. But yeah, carving out that space is definitely very important.
Shh, Cameron, you're giving away all the tips. We're gonna get to that later.
Oh, right. Sorry, I guess I'm on
giving it all away.
I'm on page 4 here. Now, just as
So,
a
for
quick
this
one.
next one.
Sorry, Marta.
Yeah, because we're gonna do all the tips in the end. So right now we're just facing the challenges that we were facing. And another big one is, of course, bandwidth. It's in all caps here because this is one that we're always talking about. Cameron, what do you know about bandwidth?
Well, I know that bandwidth is precious, and it's something that is not given out equally to different regions in the world, and we're definitely finding, for myself specifically where I live in rural Ontario, I just cannot get enough bandwidth to actually send a stable SRT feed up into our production. And even it does affect some of our Zoom calls as well, just because it eats so much of that bandwidth. Fortunately, a few of my colleagues and folks that you regularly see on the live show, they're able to contribute via their, they have a larger bandwidth on their ISP. And that's actually why I'm in the studio today, because we're on somewhat of a lockdown here at the office, so I had to schedule some time, make sure it was safe, and there's no one else coming in or out. Just due to the current conditions, but I came in for the bandwidth specifically.
I was going to say, we haven't really seen you on the live show too much because you've been producing behind the scenes, but also because we know that your bandwidth is not exactly reliable where you live.
And it's been a we have a strong level of service in that it's fairly stable, but I can only get about 5 megabytes up with
Oof.
with the different things that are happening in the house at the same time, and even some of the passive things that the computers do. It just eats up that bandwidth really quickly. And as we learned a couple of weeks ago, if anyone is watching from Canada or if they maybe saw it on the news, it was probably a quick byline, obviously because the news agencies are controlled by the same company that the outage went on. The majority of our internet services actually went down a couple of weeks ago as a result of an outage, and that affected just about everybody on the team here. And there was nothing that we could do. Our cell phones were down, internet access was down, and that's something that affected a major group of carriers in Canada.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, bandwidth is something we definitely mention a lot, and we'll actually get back to it when we get to the tips.
Oh,
But
I
as
can't
for the
give that tip away
next
already.
challenge that we faced, it was all about communicating, collaboration, and coordination, the three C's. So just this is a big one for many people who are working from home, not just for us, obviously. But we did notice that calling in to Zoom and just making sure everyone is on the same page was a really, really big one for us.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right, and it's something that we work very hard at. And even when we were in the office, sometimes communicating and collaborating was a little bit tricky because we work in different offices here in North America. Marta's down in Palo Alto. I'm up here in Ottawa. And so we're often coordinating via Zoom and shared documents and in different time zones. So I think we've really kind of strengthened that communication because so many of the folks that were in the office here have been collaborating online and learning from that experience.
That's right. And we also produced a whole bunch of webinars and other life segments where we had guests. We brought on guests, and we had to make sure that all the guests appeared in the right order.
Hmm.
And we figured out this whole system of like a Zoom green room where they would be kind of hanging out, waiting to appear. And we would have to make sure that they knew exactly when they would come in. So that was another kind of added layer of complexity when you had guests on your live stream.
That's right, and obviously, when we were getting started, we were using Zoom and we were doing a lot of cropping. And when you're monitoring that live on the internet, you don't have the opportunity to kind of broadcast that green room as you normally would. So using our Perl encoders, we're able to create separate channels so we could feed those channels through and make the best of the hardware that we have and able to create those green rooms like Marta was talking about, which was very advantageous for our productions.
That's right. And so for this final challenge that we faced, monitoring audio. I know this one was big for you, Cameron, as a producer. Do you want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So, if anyone's familiar with video production, obviously audio is a huge component of that. And it's something that we've struggled with because of the fact that monitoring audio can be very tricky. So, when you're producing content remotely, you've only got a few options for actually monitoring that audio. One of the things that we had started with initially is that we would send our live stream to YouTube in the YouTube studio where you can monitor the live feed before it actually goes live on the internet, and we were able to listen to that audio. But that audio is about 30 to 40 seconds delayed, depending on where that remote producer is and what their bandwidth is. So it's a little bit tricky when you're trying to give feedback to someone or make adjustments, through the remote mixer that we had access to, or ask that the contributors adjust their microphones locally so that you could make those changes. One of the solutions, and actually, Marta, can I give away the solution, or is that one of our tips here? Let me look.
Okay, you can briefly allude to it.
Okay. So, if I haven't said SRT at least 1,000 times already during this this live show already, we actually leverage SRT in a unique way where we'll send the confidence feed back from our studio encoder, and that's going to come into a Perl Mini that I have at my home that's just receiving the studio confidence, and I can monitor that audio locally and in nearly real time. So comparatively to monitoring via YouTube, which is about 30 or 40 seconds, I can hear that SRT audio in full quality in about 20, sorry, 230 milliseconds, depending on what the connection's like. So that's made a huge change for us. And as well, being able to see that high quality video come in via SRT as a huge bonus, and we're not having to rely on the YouTube Studio for that.
Awesome. So now let's learn about how we solve those challenges. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to throw some quick tips at you. So we asked our employees, our on-screen talent, and our producers, what is the one piece of advice that you would give about at-home video production? And Cameron has a magic bucket with some numbers in it. And we're going to do like a speed round. He's going to be pulling out numbers. I have the numbers right here, and I'm going to read them out loud, and we're just going to blast through these quick tips. Cameron, ready?
Now, if you're a long-term viewer, you may remember the bucket. Used to have a sticker on it. We called it the Buzz Bucket before, but I don't know where the label went. So I'm going to reach into the bucket here, see what number.
What is it? What is it? Lucky 5. Lucky 5.
No, and if you can read this, my terrible writing.
I cannot see it,
Frodo
Cameron.
fingernails there. So that's number 4. So what is quick tip number 4?
Number 4 is get some lights. So lighting is a big one. This is something that came up again and again with many people who have filled out this survey. And yes, getting the right light is huge. If the best thing you can do is, of course, you can have 2 lights in front of you, right? That will probably give you the best lighting. The worst thing you can do is probably shoot in a dark room or just with one light, maybe beaming down. Cameron, what's your quick tip on lights?
Well, get some lights. That's definitely important. And actually, we did have I want to maybe just mention this. We had a comment from Brian Davies. So Brian is asking, what about lighting? Is depth of field important? So depth of field is definitely very important. In this shot that we've got up now, you can see I've got a light set out. Jumping all over, that's okay. Having a multiple point lighting setup is very important. So if you only have one light, you might be creating a lot of contrast on one side of your face. Maybe one side is super dark, you're looking like a super villain hiding out, like Marta said, in a cave. So get that lighting set up. If you can do a 2 or a 3 point lighting setup where you can create a little bit of depth, you don't want to have a super flat image. Maybe get a little bit of light coming in behind you. And we're a little bit guilty of this ourselves, but don't rely too much on lighting that's coming in through your window. So even though 10 o'clock in the morning, maybe 11 o'clock, that light's going to look really good through your south-facing window. By the end of the day, it's going to be really dark, and it's going to be affecting the lighting that you have on camera. So it's not the best way to go. And in regards to the depth of field question, the more light that you have, you can go down to a lower aperture, and you'll be able to kind of really narrow down what that depth of field is. So you have a nice clean image in front, and the background's a little bit soft, just like we have here in the studio.
Sorry about that flickering presentation, guys. I was just trying to find the right slide in my presentation deck here. Just to illustrate, 2 lights in front. This is a light behind him, a rim light, and he gets a really nice Dave's home setup. He has 2 lights in front of him. I think he's lighting where one side is not super dark, and he's very evenly lit with the setup that he has.
Yeah, George Herbert sent us a message. Who's leaning on the PowerPoint keys?
Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, Dave's setup is great. He's got a really solid setup. And maybe just a quick by note on this one. Dave doesn't have his camera mounted to his desk, which makes a big difference. He also has a very solid desk, so it's not going to shake around too much. Are we ready for the next tip?
Yes, let's do it.
Hopefully we can get through all 10 here. We'll try to keep the next few a little briefer.
We should have had a little timer, like a 30-second timer.
No, let's do that. 30-second timer. All right. Why don't you tell us what the 10th one is, and I'm going to set up a timer on here.
All right. So it's get an on-air sign / lock the door. And you've already mentioned this one, so we don't have to go into too much detail. If you have family members who walk in all the time, get a sign that says "Keep out" on your door, or get an on air sign. That's even cooler. There,
Yeah.
done.
Put a sock on the door. It might send mixed signals, but people will stay out. There we go. Next tip. I'm going to stop the timer because it's going to go off. All right. So number 7.
Get a small earpiece. So this piece of advice was about getting small earpieces instead of large over-ear headphones because that makes you look like a dork, apparently, like a Twitch dork. So, all jokes aside, we're just trying to say that a small earpiece looks neater on camera. You can hear everything, and people can't even see it. And I've seen ones that, like, not even ear pods, even smaller than ear pods, where you can't even see that the person has anything inside their ear for back channel communication.
Yeah, we have one here in the studio that we picked up for some other work. It's one of those fancy news anchor ones that has like that's transparent and has a little coily wire, like your Secret Service agent or whatever. But it definitely helps quite a bit because yeah, you're not streaming Fortnite or whatever, so you don't need that big headset on there.
Okay.
All right, next tip. What do we got here? All right, numero dos.
All right, number 2, we got use hardwired internet, not Wi-Fi. Oh, wait, I can't stress this enough.
Yeah, whose tip
I
could that have
had some
been,
trouble
Marta?
getting the wire through my house into my room, but once I did it, changed my life. Changed my life. Internet stopped dropping out. It was magical. I could stay on a Zoom call without getting that pesky "your internet connection is unstable" message. It was amazing. Use hardwired internet instead of Wi-Fi.
That's right. And we actually had a comment from Aaron Werner. So he's not so humble bragging on here. I got 1,000 megabytes down and 35 up with Comcast. And he normally sees 40. So good for you. I hate you. But if you take that awesome internet and put it into a Wi-Fi router, you might kill that awesome signal, right? So it
Yes,
doesn't matter.
absolutely.
Doesn't matter what you're
Confirm.
getting. All right,
Okay.
next tip. Oh yeah, sorry, bits, not bytes. I'm never gonna get that right. Number 8. I'll just say MBs.
Take
Number
care
8.
of sound treatment of the room. So make sure that there are no echoes. Cameron, how do you do that? 30 seconds or less.
So go onto Amazon, buy some cheap foam pads. Herbert, one of our regulars on the show here, he just finished installing a whole bunch. You can get them on Amazon. I think you can buy 50 for like $25. They're pretty cheap. Those absorb the sound. You can also maybe set up in a room where you have a bookcase. You can put a mattress against the wall. I think Dave was actually joking about that at one point. He was just going to take a mattress and put it up against the wall. But it absorbs the sound, and we have those here in the studio. We just have these sound panels, and instead of reflecting the sound off the walls, they just suck it right in. So that helps quite a bit.
That's right. Any kind of soft surfaces that you can have around your room, around the walls, carpeting as well, are going to dampen the sound, and there's not going to be as much of an echo.
And that's why those little closet office works great. Keep your clothes in
That's
there,
right.
use it as an office. It's perfect. All right, Cinco.
I don't know what Cinco is. Sorry.
What? That's the 5th of May.
I'm
Number
sorry.
5.
Okay. Having a producer really helps. So, yes, having someone who is going to do all the live switching behind the scenes, that really helps. Cameron has tried to do hosting and producing a few times. Cameron, you looked a little bit stressed out when you were doing that.
Well, it's too many hats. It's pretty challenging. You're looking at, switching layouts. You got to get the graphics going. The moderators are telling you that the microphone audio sounds terrible. We've got like all these things coming in. So today, I'm on camera. I'm doing a little bit of monitoring of the chat, but Adam is taking care of all the switching and the titles in the back end. And of course, the moment he heard remote producer, he started throwing some titles up. There he is, and he was doing some switching. And so the way we have it set up, we've got our titler up in the cloud, and we're able to send that over to our cloud production side. And so we've found a lot of efficiencies there, just so that we can make sure that one person isn't doing everything.
Awesome.
Next number,
We're on
we
a
got
roll.
number 3.
Number 3, we have, this is my favorite one. Buy a house with enough rooms to create a dedicated workspace.
Yeah, just buy a
So
house. We don't have to expand on that at all. That's it.
we don't like the house market
Buy a house.
is good now. So just buy a house with enough rooms where you can make like you can make 3 rooms into a video studio.
That's right. Interest rates have never been lower. Buy a house.
Yes,
Tip number one.
excellent. Try the equipment you already own first.
Yeah.
So we had once we went into this kind of lockdown situation, we had to figure out how to do the live show fast, how to do webinars fast.
Hmm.
So we didn't really have time to order stuff from Amazon. So we looked in our closets, we looked at what was available in the office, and we just tried using that first. So for example, this was my first microphone, just an Apple headphones. uh, we used whatever we had to go live fast. And sometimes that is the best advice. Instead of getting it perfect, going live is more important than getting your setup to look and sound perfect. So we started out with that.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a honeymoon period initially where we had we could get some breaks. Lighting's not perfect, audio's not perfect, camera's not perfect. It's no big deal. We're 6 months in. You should have a pretty good setup by now. And if not, you should be considering it. All right. Ooh, was this a number 6 or a number 9? Not sure. I'm going to go with 6.
Let's go with 6. Have substitutes available. So we're talking about talent and we're talking about producers as well. So just having enough people who are familiar with the workflow so they can come in and sub you. Because Cameron, for a long time, you were the only producer we had, and you had to work like double, triple shifts just to help everyone out.
Yeah, I had a clone that's still baking in a clone vat. I don't know
Yeah,
if that's going to work out very well because we didn't invest a lot of money in that. So, but no,
no,
we trained other people and the subs as well. So making sure we have lots of hosts. We're doing these webinars, doing the live shows. We definitely saw some burnout initially where our regulars were doing a lot of the content. So we spanned it out. And honestly, I think we've seen more contribution from Marta, more contribution from other members on the team that wouldn't normally be a part of these productions. But because of the fact that we're all sequestered working from home, we're able to leverage that.
and shout out to Adam, the producer for today. Hi, Adam.
Oh yeah, sorry. Of course, we wouldn't be doing this today without Adam. So actually, I should take that off. That looks silly. Um, so
This is a
we wouldn't be able
serious show.
to
You don't want to look silly.
do this without Adam. And big kudos to Adam. A lot of this is very stressful. It's very in the moment. Today, obviously, we're a little bit late because we're doing a new setup today. It's a whole brand new setup, and so we're trying to do some last minute troubleshooting and figuring it out. Both
That's
Adams, in
right.
fact. If the other Adam is watching, you know who you are too. All right. So our last tip is a backwards B.
So that's number
Oh, that's a
9.
9. That's a 9.
Get a tripod for your camera. Really good tip.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, just makes your camera super stable. Instead of trying to jerry rig it on a bunch of books, just getting a tripod, super helpful.
Yeah, totally. And maybe you are using that old Canon point and shoot that you have at your house, and you
I
put it on a
am.
stack of books, and someone opens the door, and now you don't have a camera anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just get a
Keeping it
tripod.
away from the door.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so
Okay, so
Marta,
those
let's get
are the
into
quick
our
tips.
biggest
Hope that was quick
takeaways.
enough. And now for the best part of our evening are the key takeaways. So what it is we learned from making video at home for 6 months now. So this first one that we have here is having multiple displays is really useful. And Cameron, I think you are the best illustration of this. We have some pictures here. I found the evolution. Well, this is actually my setup, but I'm going to go into the evolution of Cameron's setup. So my setup is really simple. I have a laptop. I have one monitor that I hook up for the presentation share. That way I can have my laptop with the million tabs open for everything, available for everything else. And of course, there's the Pro Mini on the right there. But let's have a look at Cameron's setup. Okay, so on the left here is the first one. Just a really humble, March 2020 version of Cameron's setup. Just 2 monitors, nothing fancy. Number 2 on the right there is already three monitors with microphones and light behind. And then look at this. Look at this, guys. This is what Cameron's setup looks like now. He has just four monitors. Cameron, why don't you walk us through these setups a little bit? Walk us through why you have four monitors now.
Just because it looks cool. Really no other,
It
no
really
other.
does.
I could do it all. I do it all on my laptop, just in my gazebo in the backyard. So I don't really need all those. No, seriously. So in this shot, you can see on the left-hand side, I've actually got the monitor. It's connected directly to my Pearl Mini. So that one, I'm viewing the live SRT confidence feed. And with the Pearl Mini, there's a headphone jack right on the front of there, so I'm able to listen to what the SRT audio confidence is coming in. The top one, we've got our YouTube studio as well as a couple other tabs on there. I think this one was for Crowdcast, so I probably got our webinar tab up, monitoring stats on there. On the right-hand side of that split screen, yeah, exactly where Marta's just highlighted it, that's the actual Zoom back channel. So that's where I can see our participants, see what the screen share is via Zoom, and also just make sure I can monitor people when they're not actually on camera. We can see that behind the scenes shot on Zoom. The bottom camera, we're using Epiphan Live, or sorry, the bottom monitor, excuse me, we're using Epiphan Live on the left-hand side. Epiphan Live is for our switching. So using Epiphan Live, we're able to see a live shot of what's happening in that layout so that we can have some confidence before we switch to it, make sure that, the framing is right, make sure someone's actually in the shot, or if they're doing a screen share, that we actually have the right content on that at the moment. Next to that is our titler. So as we've seen some titles fly up throughout the show, that's our NDI titler. So when you launch a title in there, you can see it pop up, see how much longer it has to play, and then you can also bring that title back down. And then on the right-hand side, that's a vertical monitor. That's where I keep my Zoom chat. So often with our productions, we want to make sure that we're staying connected on a back channel for chat so we can communicate with each other, send messages. We have a wider pool of staff here in the office that are moderating, keeping an eye out for any other issues they might have on the live stream, and they'll send messages through there. And, just to further explain, I've got my Rode mic there with a stand, which is connected to my desk. And if you can just kind of see it, I have a Sony A-series camera set up there with a 16mm lens. Yeah, thank you, Marta.
There it
And so
is.
that is that's my webcam, my very expensive webcam, and that's connected to my computer via an AVIO, which is another hardware device that we make that allows me to bring in that really nice signal via HDMI from the webcam at very low to zero latency into my computer via USB 3.
And as Adam mentioned yesterday, you can use one of your monitors as a light source. If you just have a blank white page, right, without anything moving around, you can use that as a softbox. If you have stuff moving around on your monitor, it might kind of change your appearance as time goes on. But if you're not using a monitor, that can also be a light source for you.
Yeah, that's right. And it's also, and you could also say negatively, it's a light source. So if you
True.
don't have enough strong lights in your space, when you're flipping maybe between presentation slides, or if you're changing screens to look at different stuff to monitor things, it's actually going to be very visible when you change those screens or change those slides, because that's reflected right on your face.
Very true. Something to keep in mind.
Now,
Okay.
Aaron Werner had a quick question on there, but I think the
Yeah.
mods picked it up. He was asking, where can I get that titler? That is New Blue, so that's New Blue Titler for Broadcast, and it's a very powerful program, and it's able to send titles via NDI using taking advantage of alpha channeling, which we support via NDI on our Pearl 2.
Awesome. Thank you, Cameron. So for this next takeaway, putting effort into making your shot look good really pays off. And as an example, we have George Burchell's various setups. So George has been known to try out different rooms, try out different setups, different cameras, and he always puts the time into making sure that background looks really, really nice and neat. I especially like the one with the dog. I think a dog is mandatory for any background. That top top left one. And as you can see, just making sure there's like an element of something interesting in the background, or just making sure that it looks neat, really pays off in the long run.
Yeah, that's right. And I think George has definitely had the most dynamic setups, and he does have a beautiful home. And yeah, I don't know what else. I don't know where I was
On
going
the
with that.
downside,
But
of
yeah,
course, he had to kind of set it up and then tear it down every single time. I think he was able to finally pick out a space where he can set up permanently. But yeah, this is there's a downside to kind of switching the place every single time. Finding one place is of course best, and having a dedicated space is the absolute best.
yeah, that's right. And I know we're running a little bit long on time, so I think Marta, we pretty much covered number 6. So
We
maybe we
Yes, we
could,
did. Let me
yeah,
jump to
we
that
could,
real quick.
we
Sorry.
could. No, no,
I'm
no, it's
gonna
all good.
jump through this presentation to number 6 really quickly. Yes, creating a permanent video setup, if possible, is great.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a
That way you
few
have
more
some
examples
continuity
from.
to it.
Sorry, Cameron?
That way you have continuity between your setups. And as you've got on the screen here, this is George Herbert's setup. So he's set
Yes.
up in a dedicated space and another room that he has in his home, and that way it's not setting up and tearing down every time it's go live time.
All right. All right. I'm going to be jumping through my presentation here again. Back to number 3, having a technology backup plan. Um, yeah, so having some kind of backup plan for all points of failure, let's call them. So for your internet, for your microphone, for your camera, for even for our SRT workflow right now, the way we're coming to you live is using SRT streaming. But if something were to happen to that, we still have Zoom to fall back on. So just thinking about these ways to have backup to your workflow really helps. We know that's not always possible, but always plan for the worst case scenario. And Cameron, as you mentioned, if you prepare for it, it will not happen. This is the second postulate of Murphy's Law that I didn't know about.
Yeah, it's the little known Murphy's second law, that if you prepare for it, it won't happen. So we know this from experience. If you are prepared in a way that is set up, you're not going to need it.
Exactly. For number 4, we have something that we talked about a whole lot, is getting enough bandwidth. Now, we know this isn't always easy. Sometimes you just have a cap, right? Like you can't get any more unless you go to Elon Musk and ask for his service. I keep forgetting what it's called. Starlink?
Yeah, I think it's
That's
Starlink,
it.
Starbright. Wish upon a star tonight as they stream
A
across
train
the
of
night sky, in your
satellites.
long exposure photo. So yeah, that would be great. One thing that I invested in at home that was actually recommended by Mathieu Renault, who's one of our regulars on the show here, is Google Wi-Fi. So Google Mesh Wi-Fi is a really powerful tool for your home. Not only because it creates a really strong Wi-Fi mesh. I'm not actually using Wi-Fi on my home computer. I use a hardwired internet or hardwired Ethernet, but it does allow you control over the devices on that network. And I can set priority for my computer when it's go live time, and then I even have a kind of a kill switch of sorts where I can just turn off the internet on all the devices except for one device that I choose. And that makes me very popular in the house, but it forces everybody to get outside as well.
That's how you get power these days.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
control.
Exactly.
All right, we have just 2 more. One of them is using SRT for streaming. So we're using SRT right now, and that's why we are coming to you crystal clear. We are using Zoom as our backup channel. So this is a slide that we love to show when we do our webinar. That's why it says Crapcast on the bottom. So we have our talent stream to a main producer Pearl 2 from their homes using SRT. And then we use Zoom as a back channel for communication. We found that we really like this workflow because of the quality that it gives.
Yeah, that's right. And we had started doing everything via Zoom, and we're doing cropping and kind of some fragile layouts there. And once we started getting into SRT streaming, it definitely improved our game quite a bit. And Adam, actually, I've got an example of that. If you can throw us over to the media layout, I should be able to play this clip back. There we go. So this is from one of our webinars. Sorry, Dave, that's not a very flattering freeze frame for you there. Oh, and Dave did confirm he does have mattresses on the wall. So I'm just going to play this clip, and we can see one side is Zoom and the other side is SRT. So if you can't guess, the left side where we're seeing a lot of artifacting, it's pretty blurry. That is the Zoom side. And then on the right side, that's SRT. And huge jump in quality. A lot more detail, and just a lot better, a lot more betterer.
A lot more better.
As I like to say.
Very cool. Yeah, SRT has been a find for us. We're really happy with it.
Absolutely.
All right. And the final tip is leave yourself lots of time to prepare. Like we did today. We were on time. We had lots of time, right, Cameron?
Yeah, we started streaming early. People weren't waiting for us. It was great.
Yeah.
All jokes aside, this is something that we still struggle with. Obviously, we've got other priorities at work. We stream so that we can keep in touch with our customers, keep in touch with our audience, talk about new products and features and other things that are happening. But we also have other responsibilities and other things going on. So it is often hard to carve out that time. But as I reflect on every time, I should have, if I just had an extra 30 minutes, if I just made the time for it, it would have been a little bit less stressful. So make sure you leave lots of time to prepare when you're getting ready for your stream or, doing a production remote.
For sure. So that's it for our findings. We are running a little bit long here, Cameron. So do we have any comments today?
Let's take a look. Hasn't been blowing up on the chat too much. BB Productions said, "Oh, George Burchell followed the buy a house tip." George was way ahead of the game on that one for sure. Now let's see. We talked about our new blue. So Adam Werner was also saying that at his church he's in charge of broadcasting stream over Wi-Fi due to the use of a shared building, and they've had no issues, and that's absolutely possible as well. We know of issues with Wi-Fi where you turn a microwave on and the Wi-Fi will cut out or stop working. Maybe you've got big thick walls. If you've got enough access points and a strong stable connection, you should be good. Our Wi-Fi here in the office is also very strong. We use a Ubiquiti network here, and we have very strong Wi-Fi. So it really just depends. But if you're at home and you've got a D-Link router in the basement with a Wi-Fi on it and you're up in the attic, it's probably not going to work so well.
Cool. So sounds like that's about all for comments and questions for today.
And again, sorry for the delay in getting started. We're working on a really cool solution for remote productions. We tried it out on Wednesday this week. We're obviously learning as we go, but this production today is entirely in the cloud. So I'm sending an SRT connection, Marta's sending her SRT connection, and we're actually, our producer who's working from home today is actually accessing that via the cloud. And it's not streaming from our Pearl here in the office like we often do. It's actually streaming from a remote server in an undisclosed location.
Well, stay tuned for more. This sounds very interesting, Cameron.
Now, speaking of staying tuned, of course, we do broadcast every week on Thursday at 3-ish p.m. Usually we're a little bit tighter on that. And make sure to follow us on YouTube if you're watching for the first time. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so you see future content that's coming up. We have a huge library of content on YouTube as well. So make sure to check that out if you're looking for solutions for streaming or for other applications that you might find yourself in need of answers. And of course, we're always looking for feedback. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave that on this video below or somewhere else in our library. And next week we have a interesting episode coming up. Marta, what are we talking about next week?
So we're going to be talking about best Canon cameras for streaming. We've tested a whole bunch of Canon cameras. We know everything there is to know, and we're going to share that expertise with you on time at 12. I guarantee, because I'm not doing that episode. 12 p.m. Pacific and 3 p.m. Eastern next Thursday.
That's right. We've got some nice friends over at Canon Cameras Canada, and they set us up with a pretty wide range of cameras. And George has been testing those out, including the C200 that we're broadcasting on today here.
Awesome. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Cameron, thank you as well.
Yeah, thank you, Marta. It was great seeing you, and as always, great work on all the content today. I really appreciate it, and I hope if you're watching, you learned something.
Bye, guys.